I wanted to tell everyone about my experience with this tool I've been using. It's called Subcontext Tool. And I found it to be this great thing to help us deal with life when it's not working. So when it comes down to it, there's two life roads, right? Two paths. Where things are working in your life and where things are not working in our lives, right? And the reason we have things in our life that are not working is simply because we're doing something that's not true. It's that simple. We're doing something that's not true to ourselves, or we're trying to do something that maybe is true to ourselves, but we're trying to do it in a way that's not true to ourselves. And we do this because our mind holds all these convictions, thoughts, beliefs, nonsense, pressures, and so on that make us try to do this. And then all of a sudden our life is not working. And it's always because our mind, or somehow our mind, some part of our mind, some need that our mind thinks is important, whatever, and our life's not working. And so to get our lives on track, to make our lives work, we have to get down to the truth of what it is that we're even trying to do. And is this thing that's not working, is it the wrong reasons I'm doing it, the wrong ways, or is it completely the wrong thing? And one of the ways we can figure out, what the case is and how to get back on track is by really clearly analyzing our thoughts. But we don't know how to do that because our thoughts are sitting there being created this certain way, and it's like this enemy that is, supporting itself. So it's really hard in there to get in our mind in a detached way and figure out where is this thing coming from, this force, this wish, desire, this confusion, this frustration, this anger, and how do I make my life work again? So what this tool does is it takes what you wrote. So you write something down and you put it in this tool, and the tool analyzes your writing. And it's like this observant guide that's examining your writing, seeing the patterns in your writing, see the way you start something, stop something, see the things you emphasize, see the things that aren't mentioned that, should and could be a part of what you're writing about. Basically analyzes your writing in accordance with, what we know on psychological thought, basically, and how we express ourselves, the things we say and allow ourselves to say, the things we want to say and don't hold back. This whole psychology revolving around all this way that we might communicate in writing. And it analyzes it, and then it gives it back to us, okay? Makes us aware of what we're neglecting, what we're not paying attention to, where we're trying to push ourselves in a direction maybe that's not ours. And it gives really remarkable insight. And it blew me away. I was like, oh gosh. And at the time I was introduced to this tool by the person who developed it, my dear friend Isla, I was dealing with some stress, and I was writing some letters back and forth with people, So I literally took the letters I was writing, and I put them into this tool, and then I let it get back to me. And I realized, wow, most of this stuff I was writing, absolute bullshit. None of this was based on anything true. It was all based on avoidance, frustrations, all the wrong emotions, basically. And then I took the letters that they wrote me. Okay, then it got really interesting, and I plugged their letters into the tool. And then I'm seeing, I see it. If the tool's telling me where they're really at, let me get a better perspective on them. So I'm not just listening to the words they wrote, which sometimes can be a little bit stressful to hear. I was literally getting the background information on the person. And through that, more clarity emerged. And I found it to provide a lot of clarity. We communicate and it's not clear, right? How does that happen? Because we're communicating with ideas and truths which are not even relevant to the core problem that we're dealing with sometimes. All right? And people, we get triggered, and then, defenses show up, and all this stuff shows up, and it can become such a mess. And this tool basically helps us sort through that. And there's two ways to use it. You can just journal about something. You can just say, well, I'm really frustrated with this, the way my career is, my way my relationship is, about my living situation, whatever it is, where your life's not working out to your satisfaction. And you just write down about that. You journal about it. And then you throw it into this tool, run the tool, and it'll give you the feedback. And an interesting thing about journaling is that when we journal, there's what we say, and then there's what we say, and then there's what we say, and then there's the truth of it all. The first time we journal, it's usually a superficial layer. It's more of a venting, trying to get into a good space layer. So when a person journals, it's always a good habit to get into, to read what you just wrote and ask yourself, is this true? And you'll find yourself lots of times you'll say, no, it's not true. And then you try again. You try to write it more truthfully. If you keep doing that, you'll get to the greater truth of it, depending on your ability to want to see the truth. And that's really the healthiest way to journal. Don't just believe you just wrote it all down and it's done. You need to read it and say, is this really the truth of how I feel? Is this really my truth? Lots of times you'll find it's not. Because in our initial communications, so much of it is defenses, frustrations, all this stuff coming out. What's great about this tool is you put it in there and it finds that stuff and it throws it back and it asks you questions and it tells you about the things you're ignoring and about maybe the feelings you're not paying attention to. And it gives us feedback that helps you get to the truth of what you're really feeling about something, the thing that you just wrote about. So you can use it like that. Just put a journal entry into it. Or you can write a person a letter, but before you send it, drop it into the tool and get the clarity. See okay, maybe that wasn't really true. Maybe I said that wrong. Maybe that's not really what is the most important thing. Whatever. You get a feeling for how you need to change that letter so that when you do send it, it'll actually be a better letter that the person can receive. Okay? Or you can send that letter off to them and then put it into your subcontext tool here and see what it says back and then realize, shit. And then you can go back and apologize to them and say, actually, I realized I was coming way out of left field here. And that, a lot of what I said wasn't really truthful to me. And then you could correct that too. So, we don't always communicate effectively with ourselves, when we journal, in our own minds, and with other people. And this tool helps us do a better job with that. Okay? Our lives aren't on track, on the areas are not on track, because we're simply not communicating to ourselves correctly. We have this relationship with the different parts of ourselves, and if we're not communicating well to ourselves, we're going to get off track and make mistakes and not know how to get back on track. It really is about how we're communicating, what our mind is communicating as the truth, and what things is it ignoring, what things is the body feeling, the heart feeling, that our mind is just ignoring as it spells out the truth of what we're here to do and how we're going to do it. This tool shows you that. In fact, it has a very specific focus on the body. It's like, okay, you're saying all this stuff, but, where's the feeling arising from? Is this really what you're feeling inside of yourself? Or is this what the mind is deciding to put down on paper? Okay? So I found this tool to be really, really rewarding. I was shocked what it was able to do. Because I didn't expect, honestly, that much when I saw it. I'm like, oh, okay, just another one of these tools that people are making. And I plugged some stuff in and I was really stunned. I was very, very impressed in what it was able to tell me to help me get my thoughts back in track and on order in the context of a more truthful way in how I felt. Okay? Even when we're feeling upset and bummed and bad about something, we don't always let ourselves even feel that. Instead, we go to our minds and our mind has this idea, this agenda of how it's supposed to do and what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do. And we start following that and we just really plowed over a lot of the things we were feeling. And this tool becomes aware of those patterns and it asks us to say, hey, you're not even writing about what you felt. What about the things you felt, And the sensations you're experiencing, feeling. See, the mind can just, in its frustration and pain, it can just ride over all that stuff and ignore this whole world of information that we need to pay attention to if we want our lives to be on track, right? Because for something to work in our life, it has to work mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for us, okay? When something works that way, our life feels like it's on track and we say it's working for us. But if it's not, it's we have to sort it out. And it's usually not because our mind is having too much force, in the context that we have a belief system, we think this is how it has to be, and it just ignores a lot of our feelings, a lot of things we need to do for ourselves, things that are trying to communicate to us, and we just run right over them. So it's important to know those kinds of things, to be aware of those things. And while we can do this the hard way by really deep journaling, asking ourselves, is it true, re-journaling, and keep doing that until we go, oh my gosh, this is what I was really feeling. We can do it that way, and it works great, but sometimes it's really hard because we can't confront certain parts of ourselves. That's why we do it. In fact, on the things that are working the least well in our lives, where we're most stuck, that's where we're telling the most lies to ourselves. And our mind literally, we're literally blocked from even wanting to know the truth. We have protective mechanisms in us that are not wanting us to know certain truths about ourselves. This tool doesn't have that protective mechanism. It just sees what you wrote, tries to give you the best information to help you get in touch with what's more true in yourself. And then things start getting back on track. Because if things start going off track because our mind is telling us to do things that aren't true or in ways that are not true to us, then the way to get back on track is to rediscover what we're really feeling, what we're really meaning, what we're really intending. And this tool does a fantastic job with that. You need to put any entry of 300 words. Say you're texting with someone, you can just take everything they wrote, copy everything they wrote, plug it in until their 20 or 30 sentences equals 100 words. Analyze where they're coming from, what they're saying. And then you can do the same with your chats. You can copy all your messages in and plug it in. So you can take all your messages, plug it into one big paragraph. So you can't just take a single text. It needs 300 words. It needs enough context to work with and discover the patterns and so on that's in your writing. Then it does a fantastic job. Tool's not free. It's $9.99 for single use. You can buy a package, and then you can get the uses down to a lot less. So you can get a pack of 10 or something. I find myself, the first day I used it, I think I used it 4 or 5 times because I was like, wow. I was so impressed and having so much fun. So find it to be a very, very worthwhile tool. And for me, I always like to try to understand where a person's coming from, what their meaning's coming from. So it's just so important to me. That's one reason I love to use astrology and see charts and see what's really going on inside this person. So I loved using this tool on the writings of other people. I even had a case where a client wrote me something, and the way they wrote it, it was it created a lot of curiosity, and I was trying to understand it, and I knew there was something there that, was interesting behind the lines, let's say. And it was a good size email. So I just took that email, dropped it into the tool. Next thing the tool is telling me, what this person is fearful of, why they're saying this stuff, what it is they're really needing. And so all of a sudden I have all this information before even, without even casting a horoscope, tell you the truth, that was able to help me know what it was that this client needed. Okay, so you can use it on your clients when they write you that big intro email about how they think their life is. And then you'll look through it and you just see the truth of their life. The more heartfelt, the more spontaneous the writing that you put in, and the longer, the better, because it gives more patterns. When it's heartfelt and it's emotional and it's off the cuff, it really gives the tool what to write with. Of course, if it's cold and calculated, well, the tool's going to figure that out too, and it's going to focus on that aspect. It does a fantastic job. So don't want to take too much time talking about it. I think it's a great way to have clarity with ourselves. I think it's a great way to get clarity with other people. And by clarity, I mean knowing what we need to know to get ourselves and other people back on track in the areas of our life that's not working. Okay? And to discover what we're just simply neglecting in ourselves. I mean, that was the beautiful thing when I used the tool in my own writing. It would just blatantly say, this is based, you're saying all this, but you're not saying all this, which means this is all the stuff that you're neglecting. That's an important part of the equation. And if we try to to make decisions and make our lives work with part of the equation missing, it's not going to work. Okay, so I'm going to put a link at the bottom of this for everyone to check out this tool. And then you can enjoy using it. I hope you all give it a try. I found it worthwhile, and I hope you do too. Thank you.